Welcome to the Hat Trick, presented by the ICC. I'm Charlie Stolitano, joined by Rocky Ray Hudson, Neil Barnett, and special guest Gab Marcotti of ESPN FC. Today, the four of us are going to have a roundtable discussion on the return of the Bundesliga, what it means for the rest of Europe's top leagues, and what the short and long-term impacts of the COVID pandemic will have on the sport. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Spotify. And remember, you can hear all of our episodes on internationalchampionscup.com. To hear more from Ray, Neil, and me, tune into the football show weekday mornings on Sirius XM FC. I have to say, first of all, Gabby, welcome, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, this is every time I'm with these guys, I'm amazed. You know what I mean? Like Ray and Neil together. Pete Corey behind the glass, as they say. And I have to start out first by saying that what's the best pizza you've ever eaten?
Okay, so I need to come out and say a couple things about this. So first of all, as you know, I'm from Milan. Pizza is not part of my culture. So I approach it with a very open, agnostic mind. I've had exceptional pizza around the world. I know Neapolitans are very proud of their pizza. I know there's a whole New Haven pizza thing going on.
Which is quite good, by the way.
I'd say some of the best pizza I've had on your side of the Atlantic is in this little place called Westfield, New Jersey, at the Stilitano.
How's that?
122 Evergreen Terrace, you know.
How is that, fellas? Little pizza oven in the backyard.
Really?
A little wood-burning oven. I made it for Gabby and a buddy of his, and
Charlie,
was good.
It's not a little pizza oven. It's like a hardcore, serious, like restaurant grade, like
Naples
pizza oven. Yeah, important.
Forno a legno, a wood
I don't
oven.
even want to know how much that thing cost.
Well, there's a story someday I'll tell you about it.
How did it taste, Gabby? How did it taste?
It was really, really good. It's really good. The only thing is, if you go to have pizza at Charlie's house, you have to kind of go through all the steps, which involves him like giving you a tour of the kitchen, him introducing you to the mother yeast, which, you know, dates back to the old country, you know, straight from Gioia Tauro, but many generations before Charlie. So, you know, you get the whole experience. You're not just going up and saying, give me a slice, and, you know, they plunk it down.
I've got to say,
Gabby, you can go to Chairman's Cena, where I make dinner for the crew. And we've done carbonara, we've done cacio pepe, we've done a Sunday sauce, a ragu alla napoletana. You're going to love it. You have to go.
I will have to check it out.
Yeah.
Charlie, I've got to tell you about two pizzas.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
One was in 2015 when Chelsea got absolutely annihilated 4-2 by New York Red Bulls in a preseason game.
Yes.
And we returned to the center of New York on a minibus or a coach, much the worse for wear, went into Legends on 34th Street, I think.
There's a few Legends, but I think that
finished up getting hammered and just desperate for pizza, walked up Broadway and walked into this pizza joint, which the pizza was wonderful. It was little kind of salad bowls and everything else, absolutely magnificent. And I sat down and I looked around and everyone, all the fellas, I was the only guy there not in a skull cap. And I looked up and there was a big sign on the wall that said kosher pizza. I'd walked into a very special place, but it was damn good pizza. The other one that I've had a few times down near Little Italy and near Chinatown, actually, but near Little Italy, is the vodka pizza, where I went with a Mr. Pete Curry and got completely and utterly corrupted that night.
Hey, Neely, I've got to have my little say here between, you know, the Italians and the Englishmen here, because I'm going to wave the flag of the United States in a way that, and I eat more pizza than the three of you put together. First of all, you guys have got your loved ones cooking for you. I live by myself, all right? And Giordano's from the wonderful city of Chicago, greatest pizza in the world.
Absolutely agree with you. Brilliant.
Okay.
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with
Look,
you.
guys.
I love a truffle pizza in
USA,
London as well.
USA.
Gabby, thanks for joining us. Gabby Marcotti, ESPN FC. It's really a pleasure. And we're the only guys can waste 60 minutes of your life talking about pizza. But thank you for joining us. First things first, Bundesliga started this week. What do you guys think? Talk to us, fellas. Talk to Gabby. You first, my friend.
Well, look, I mean, I'm just psyched that there's live, meaningful sport on television. And I knew this was going to happen, right? But the curious thing is, when the Bundesliga, and I say this with the greatest respect to the Pharaohs League and the K League with their, you saw about the sex dolls, right?
Oh, brilliant.
Fantastic, yes. But
I'm
why don't
digressing
you tell our listeners, because not everyone heard, not everyone's.
I'll give that a thumbs up.
Yeah. So basically, I think it was
Thumbs up.
I think it was Seoul FC. They were playing Gwangju, and different teams were concerned about the absence of fans, and so they decided to get creative. And some people brought in, Borussia Mönchengladbach, famously when they next play at home, they're going to have cardboard cutouts. These guys says, well, we're going to bring in mannequins, and then that's what they told the league. And then the mannequins weren't actually mannequins; they were sort of inflatable people, and they weren't inflatable people; they were all women. And people suggested that perhaps they had, ordered it or gotten them from some sex shop somewhere because they looked sort of to be of that variety.
How would you know, Gab?
I would know because FC Seoul apologized for any misunderstanding. But going back to Charlie's question, it looks different. I've heard all these comments, right? So I think we have to modulate everything. So you're going to have some people who literally never watch the Bundesliga and who maybe even people who just never watch the sport and we're just tuning in because they want to see live team sports. Other people who are going to be creeped out or by the fact that there's no fans. For me, I tune in for the football. I appreciate the fans and the whole history behind it. I like looking at nice stadiums. But you know what? Once I get into the game, I don't really pay attention to the crowd noises or to the people in the stands as long as they're behaving. I focus on the football. And I thought it was pretty good. There was a ton of muscular injuries, which I guess is understandable because obviously they haven't had that much time to train. But I think, most importantly, it provides a blueprint. If this goes successfully, and so far it has, we don't want to jinx it, for La Liga, for the Premier League, and for Serie A to return as well.
It surprises me, Gabby, a little bit when you mentioned you didn't mention the atmosphere, but about the reactions and non-reactions. I don't know exactly what you said, but it just touched a point with me that for me when I was watching the game, that was the biggest thing that I missed of all was the sounds. It was truly the acoustics of the game. I didn't like it. I didn't like that. We heard everybody calling for the ball, and how strangely the punctuation of the silence made me feel even more removed from the game. And the commentators were doing their damnedest, trying to do a great job of not falsely creating an atmosphere, but doing a commentary job. But when I heard the ball being passed, and when I heard the clank off of the goalposts, even the rustle of the net, which is the most beautiful sound a footballer has on the field, it made me turn the volume down, Gab. I turned the volume down and watched the game.
But I mean, fine. Think back and look. I mean, this is going to be different for everybody.
For sure.
But anybody who's watched, I mean, I know Neil watches youth football. Anybody who watches, semi-pro or whatever, it's not that different. You can go and you can hear all these sounds. I mean, These sounds are organic to football. When Charlie was turning out for that school in central New Jersey in college. Somehow, I imagine there weren't thousands and thousands of people there. And anybody watching could hear all this stuff.
There were
this
lots
is what
of
the game sounds like.
There were lots of chicks there to see me play. That's a big difference.
Yeah, you and Bob Bradley. Who got the most chicks?
That's correct.
Bob, yeah.
Here's what I have to say.
Easy.
You know what's funny, Ray, and you are one of the great color commentators in the world of sports, which you really are, and this I mean with all sincerity. And quite often, and you have to do this from your studio, and quite often over the years, I've watched Serie A games, and I know, Gabby, you have too, that they don't bring in the sound from the stadium. And it's an announcer in front of a TV. And what's strange to me is that, you know, and if Serie A, some of the stadiums are empty, especially the first few rows, right? Because they like sitting up. And I got to tell you, it wasn't all that different for me. A lot of games that I've seen over the years. And being now with you does a good job to bringing in the fans. Premier League does a fantastic job, but I have to tell you, over the years, they haven't done that. And especially for Serie A games, you don't even get the sound. It's bizarre.
I don't know. It just felt it brought it home in a way that I just wasn't expecting. I loved the fact that, as you say, Gabby, the game was brought to us, and the football was tremendous. That first goal by Haaland,
let's jump into that, Rocky.
Let's
jump into that, Gabby. Erling Haaland, and we've got to mention as well the Leverkusen player who's done so well, Kai Havertz, who is being linked with every big club going. What about these two guys?
You know, that's such like the English guy immediately talking about linking them to Premier League clubs.
I didn't say Premier League. I said big clubs.
But you were thinking that because only two big clubs you know are Leeds and Chelsea.
Haaland's been linked to Real Madrid. So I'm not having that.
How funny was that front page of was it Marca? Haaland, Hazard, and Mbappe. I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, nothing wrong with, who knows, maybe one day. Look, I mean, I think they're two different players. They're in two situations. I mean, Kai Havertz had a tremendous season last year. I think he struggled a little bit this year. The guy presents weird mismatches because, he's a very, very skillful player on the ball, and yet he's tall. He plays with his head up. He's developing more of a physical presence. He's definitely somebody to watch. But clearly, the guy who just blows me away is Erling Haaland. And it's funny. The guy apparently has no weaknesses. He's very good on the ball. He's incredibly quick for a guy his size, and obviously he's strong like an ox, right?
And he makes great runs too, I thought.
He's super smart.
Yeah.
At every stage of his career, when your dad's a professional footballer and you grow up comfortable and you grow up educated, you have all these advantages. You can pick and choose where to go to. That's why he went to Molde. That's why he went to Salzburg. Everything has been sort of studied at every stage. The one thing is, it's funny, my buddy Tor Christian Carlson, who's the former director of football and chief executive at Monaco, among others. We at ESPN, we had him make his list of the 36 top players under the age of 21. And weirdly, he had Haaland at number 8, which I didn't fully appreciate or agree with. He had him behind guys like Donnarumma, for example, and Vinicius. But the funny thing about him, he pointed out, he's never scored a headed goal, which in fact he has, but he scored very, very few. And then you think, man, if this guy becomes a legit aerial threat as well, and he obviously has the size to do it, he's got the leaping ability. I'm just struck by how much self-assuredness, how much confidence he has. Old school football guys will tell you that, you learn the most about a player when he hits a rough patch. Everybody's going to hit a rough patch. Let's see how he reacts. This dude hasn't hit a rough patch yet. He went 3 games without scoring for Borussia Dortmund, and that was his rough patch. So I don't know. You don't want to overhype somebody, but you wonder, are Mbappe and Haaland going to be the defining players of their generation the way Cristiano and Leo were for theirs?
Well, like I was saying, Charlie, the first goal for me, I'm not getting away from the subject matter of the goal scorer because it was a nice touch. Actually, I wasn't sure if it hit his shin. Did it, Gabby? Or was it a clean touch?
Well, we had on my podcast on the Gab and Jules show today, we had Jan Åge Fjørtoft, who's clearly biased, having been a former tall Norwegian striker himself, who grew up with Alfie Holland, Erling's dad. He said he caught the ball above his boot, but it's exactly where he wanted to catch it.
There you go.
It was studied. It just was not a shank. He said, I just need to redirect it. The cross was with it. That's all you had to do.
Absolutely. Get it at that right angle. He'd already adjusted everything to get the right touch on it and whatever. But the build-up to the goal as well has been overlooked. I mean, this was a beautiful goal, and that's my point. It was a goal that we all enjoyed and loved, and that's football right there. And this is, it's bizarro world. Listening to this and watching it and being strangely, weirdly uncomfortable around it, and yet still enjoying it. And then even for the goal, the lack of contact, the lack of personal touch. I mean, you Italians know that's what it's all about, right? It's amore, right? I mean, it's the physical contact. And when I was watching the wonderful high-def pictures, I'm thinking, oh, man. And I'm not knocking it, guys. I'm not knocking it.
You just wanted to give him a cuddle, didn't you?
I did. I wanted that back, and I'm not going to get it back for so long, and it just pisses me off.
Well, look, Ray, you of all people, I think you should be pissed off. You are the ultimate fan. You're 80,000 people thrown into one body and one voice, and I love that about you. But this is the reality of where we are now.
I know.
This is it, and this is, I want to ask you guys. It struck me when I saw the game Juventus against Inter Milan. Gabby is an Inter Milan fan, and what struck me, so is Pete Corey. It's okay. You guys are in good company. Two smart, good-looking guys that never lose. But that's something else we'll get to in a minute. But what struck me in that game was not just the silence, but what it takes to win in these circumstances and how games will change. Because to me, it was a totally professional performance by Juventus. One that was almost calculated and calm, if you will. And I think that this was a game that Inter really needed something, even fans booing them, something to get them up. And I just had the sense that, if this is the rest of the season, obviously some of these leagues are already done and dusted. Some they've decided they're not even going to play them anymore, right? But there's going to be some surprises, I think, especially like in the Champions League.
Are you suggesting that
Atalanta
without crowds, it's going to be the pragmatic sides rather than the sides that rely on inspiration, which can come from the crowds getting up for genius? Are you suggesting it's the pragmatic sides that are going to flourish?
It was a question to you guys, and when I
think it's a good point.
In that example, it was the pragmatic side that won, right?
Charlie, let's face it, the last 4 years of Serie A, it was Juventus cooler under pressure than somebody else. It was Juventus being pragmatic and professional more so than other teams and winning.
Unquestionably. But what about a guy like Neymar that feeds off of fans?
Well, we don't have to worry about him. I'll give you a better example here in England. What about Jurgen Klopp? Right? That is a team that unquestionably, I think.
Yeah, but they have nothing to play for now. They have 2 wins and they're done.
Okay, but that type of team, that has that relationship with their audience, how might they get affected? And I would tend to, look, I really don't know because we're in uncharted waters. But what I would suggest is that, a lot of footballers I've spoken to, they're aware of the crowd. They say they got to live for the crowd.
Sure.
But a lot of the better ones, when they're playing, they're focused on the game. And I think it's going to take, 3, 4, 5 games to get the measure of it. And these guys are competitors. They've all played without crowds at some point in their careers, maybe when they were younger or whatever.
Well, almost every day at training, right?
Almost every day at training, yeah. And some of these guys are just as competitive as at training.
Sure they are.
So, I would imagine that they'll get used to it. You know, I'm assuming most of you and probably most of our audience has watched that Last Dance documentary that is on ESPN or Netflix, depending where you are in the world. And you know, they talk about those pickup games that Michael Jordan played in while he was playing Space Jam, where you know he felt he needed to work out, so they had like all these star players coming in, and there's no cameras, and you're calling your own fouls, and it's just the sound of like a basketball or whatever in the gym. I think a lot of guys are like that in real life. So while I think to some degree they always talk about feeding off the crowd and this great support, who's going to say like, oh no, our fans really make a difference? You know, who's going to? We have this expression in Italy, right? Which is sputare nel piatto dove mangi, right? Spit in the plate where you eat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Nobody's going to come out and say that. Oh, the fans, those guys who give their hard-earned change to follow us left or right, they don't make a difference. And of course, they probably do make a difference, but I think you can adjust pretty quickly to that.
Yeah, you can. But your point, I think the point you made about Liverpool is a fascinating one, because having been at Anfield, especially on those, as they call it, the special European nights, I mean, they're not going to have any the rest of this season, right? Because they were eliminated by Diego Simeone, even in their cauldron of a stadium with their fans, right? So, again, Gabby's a Liverpool fan too. So, Ray, so just so we're clear. And I don't mean to pick on you, but I think you bring up a great point. A guy like Klopp is all about entertainment, all about the love, all about the camaraderie, all about, feeding off of that.
Right.
I mean, the guy turns to the stands and pumps his fist and says, come on, let's go.
So does Simeone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simeone did something else too, a gesture, which was a little different than Klopp's. But let's go over, fellas. Let's go over to England. Let's go over to England, Gabby. This way Neil doesn't feel left out.
England coming back.
The question's got to be not just England, but I mean, England now is going back with 5 training at any one time. Spain's gone up to 14 training at any one time. Italy's still making its mind up. How much will the apparent administrative success of the Bundesliga move these other leagues forward, or won't it?
I mean, I think, and I said this from day one, there's a reality there. The reality is Germany is a wealthier, better organized country that was hit less hard by the pandemic, in part because they have more money and a better health system, and in part because they prepare better. Don't want to get political. I'd argue they probably have a better government as well and smarter people in charge.
Sure.
I think it's as simple as that.
Yep.
Those other 3 countries that you mentioned, they rank United Kingdom first, Italy second, and Spain third in terms of number of deaths. Okay. I mean, that's the reality. That's the reality of public opinion towards coming back. That's the reality of the scientific community in terms of in the medical community. And that is a major, major hurdle to overcome. People don't feel safe because they don't trust their governments, because they said, well, wait a minute, 30,000 of us have died. Because, you have this herd immunity nonsense in one country, this other garbage in Italy where they're slow to react on certain things. And, all these things come together. And I think this weighs really, really heavily on the people making decisions. And as we've seen in the Premier League, on the clubs as well. Some clubs in the Premier League are clearly self-interested with this neutral venue stuff. But even the police, the police who are in charge of everything seemingly here in England come out and say, well, no. Games have to be played in neutral venues, which, by the way, let's call a spade a spade. This is all linked to perceptions that certain police officers have about fans in England in the 80s, where they were treated like cattle and disrespected, and they're just seen as like a permanent unruly mob.
And you think they're still that way? These police officers have that throwback mentality? Not the police officers, the police authorities, I'll call them.
Some people do, but not all policemen, because of course the former head of the police in England said this neutral grounds thing to prevent mass gatherings was the wrong policy. Because the reality is, if people are going to be stupid enough to go and celebrate in the streets, they don't need to be celebrating outside Anfield. And by the way, that's who I'm talking about, because that's who they're talking about, right? That's who they're picking on, first and foremost. So, that's more of an administrative hurdle to overcome. But there are a lot of players. Even today, there was a survey, and this blew me away. It was on the BBC website. There's a survey of team doctors, right? 10 of the 20 Premier League doctors said that even today, they're not entirely clear on the medical protocol and the response and the roles and responsibilities, their roles and responsibilities in applying the medical protocol. We are far behind here. I hope they can get going. I mean, I think June 12th is not going to happen. Richard Masters said as much today. Maybe I think June 19th, maybe June 26th is a more realistic option. But there's the other elephant in the room, which is these guys, the earliest these guys could possibly come back to full training with full contact, the absolute earliest, assuming they agree on phase 2 of the medical protocol for full training, which, you know, is totally up in the air still, is June 1st. How many weeks do they think that they need with full training to be able to come back and do so safely when they'll be playing games so regularly, 2-3 times a week between now and the end of the season to fulfill the fixtures? This is all stuff that hasn't been full through, and that's why we're in this. We've got this uncertainty in England. We have uncertainty in Italy. In Italy, it's weird because
in Italy, don't you think, Gab? To me, in Italy, it's in England. I thought it was the driver was going to be the club owners, presidents, CEOs, whatever you want to say. In Italy, I thought the drivers would be the government, which is turning out to be the case because there is a dysfunctional government going on over there, right? Good or bad.
Well,
and then in Spain, I thought it was going to be Tebas that makes the decision alone.
But you know that, right? So Tebas, I mean, that's another big difference, right? Tebas and Seifert in Germany, those guys have been talking every single day. I mean, as you know, you can't shut Tebas up, right? Here in England, I think today was the first time that Richard Masters spoke in the last month or 6 weeks.
This is the guy in charge of the Premier League.
This is the guy in charge of the Premier League. Now, he's not the only person involved, but
took over for Richard Scudamore.
So, because there has been no communication from the Premier League, and maybe it's a strategy, and they've got highly paid comms consultants who are responsible for this, what we've had coming out is leaks from clubs, because certain clubs have the ones that have been talking. So you get stories like, oh, you know, telling players to turn their faces away when they tackle and nonsense like that. And we've gotten little dribs and drabs of the picture, which has only increased the uncertainty for a lot of players. Like, I try to be optimistic. Tomorrow they return to small-sided training. I'm hoping that this is a first step. I'm very cognizant of the fact they still need to approve phase 2 and then phase 3 of the protocols. I hope they'll do it. I want this league to restart before September. Hopefully it's going to be the end of June. But I'm not surprised that these other countries have faced these hurdles because, simply put, when it comes to organizing things and running things, none of them are anywhere near as good as Germany.
I've got to say that there are very few players left in certainly the Premier League who you look at and you'd think, as men, you'd want them in your dressing room, because there are so few players who carry that leadership and authority. One who is, and I'm talking about as a man more than as a footballer, is Troy Deeney at Watford, who's been very outspoken in the last week. And his point, one of his most recent points has been that the people who have suffered from the virus and who have died from the virus as well is a much higher percentage amongst BAME people than it is amongst Caucasians. And he said
4 times as high. 4 times as high. Black and Asian.
Nothing in football which has such a large percentage of BAME participants, nothing in football has considered this issue whatsoever. Troy Deeney's a man.
Hey.
It's
smart man.
It's one of many things that you know, even the coaches. I mean, I spoke to one Premier League coach who said that they were really okay. So they had this weird video conference early on where they were included, where like the sound was terrible and like, you know, I can reveal it was neither Jurgen Klopp nor Pep Guardiola, but they were on the call for like 2 hours and weren't able to speak. And it kept cutting out and they could hardly hear things in drips and drabs. And then they were included again, 10 days ago, a week ago? And this is when they voiced their concerns, when they said that we need more time to train. How do you not include the coaches in this? How do you not include the PFA? It feels like that they spoke to the players at the beginning to try to get them pay cuts, right? To try to negotiate these league-wide pay cuts. And then all of a sudden, these guys were cut out of the picture. Now, how does this happen? And it was all about the owners, all about the owners sitting there in the Premier League trying to figure things out on their own.
But isn't that really what I said? And the English Premier League is run by the money. The money and the leaders who are in charge of the money are the guys running the league.
And I don't want this in any way to sound xenophobic or anything, but they're mostly overseas. They're mostly foreign people. So how much concern do they actually have for the league itself?
Well, they have enough concern because these are their investments tied up in it.
It's the money.
I mean, it's
George would say, it's the money,
yeah.
You moron. He'd say to me, not to you guys.
No, but look, I mean, these guys want to make their money off the Premier League, and their concern for the league is that the league comes back and people are happy, and you don't have players going on strike. So I know of two owners, admittedly only one of the two is English, but they're incredibly concerned with the way things have unfolded. Look, again, I want to be positive, and I hope that they can bring it back. It seems they are making strides. It seems that they're going to reverse this asinine neutral grounds policy. It seems that they'll reach an understanding over phase 2 of the protocol. But it's taking a long time, and I can't help but feel that it could have been done better. And I don't want to pick on them because, in Italy we have a whole other raft of issues to contend with as well.
Let's put a bow around Italy if we can, in Spain. I mean, these are the Southern Europeans, not known for their organizational strengths, although Tebas has been very organized. The Spanish League has done a fantastic job over the years of organizing itself and of building itself up. So I don't want to put them in the same category as Serie A, which has struggled. But traditionally, they're not the most, let's say, efficient countries.
Yeah, no question. Relative to Germany, no. Relative to Germany, most countries suck. If you want efficiency in organization, you go to Germany, you go to Japan, right? I'm sorry. It's not just Southern Italian countries. Belgium's not exactly hitting it out of the park either, if we want to go there.
Right, but we're talking about, I'm really specifically talking about the league more than anything. Coming now to, they have to make some decisions. Simple decisions. I mean, the one decision in Italy that blew my mind, they said if one guy gets sick, then we're going to cancel the whole thing. I mean, how do you go with one guy getting sick? I mean, this is insanity.
Yeah, so they said if one person gets sick, then we really should quarantine the entire team. Right. That is the scientific opinion. That's what they were going to do originally in Germany, then they decided not to. What's really frustrating in Italy is, in most countries, you would imagine, if you're talking about sports coming back, this is what happens in normal countries. So obviously, in Italy, the opposite happens, right? You would think that the sports minister would be the one campaigning about, hey, how can we get guys back playing safely? And then maybe it would be the health minister putting on the brakes, right? In Italy, you have a sports minister who is the first guy putting down the brakes. A guy who talks continuously. He's got his own Facebook page where he says things and then he says the opposite later. And I think a lot of clubs just want some level of clarity. It's difficult for people to understand why is it that in Germany, if one guy gets sick, he gets quarantined. And bear in mind, these people are tested continuously. But now in Italy, you want to impose that everybody has to get quarantined. Why you pass a protocol where you say, okay, all the players have to be in a bubble at the training ground and they have to sleep at the training ground for X amount of times as if it was a World Cup, when you know that there's only one team in Italy that can fulfill those requirements because they have a whole freaking hotel at the training ground.
Site,
and that's Juventus,
by the way.
The joke goes, if we're going to do this, then why don't we just give the title now to Juve and I'll go home and not worry about it, Those are the things that have been really, really frustrating, I think, to a lot of people. And, a lot of people don't like the fact that 1 second he's all positive about them coming back and then the next one he does a 180. All that said, I think we're closer to an understanding. There's some legal liability and insurance issues involving the team doctors, which, by the way, the Premier League also needs to figure out. there is this issue of the team quarantine versus the individual quarantine, that I think they're going to eventually come around to the individual quarantine. And there's the issue of whether they should quarantine for 14 days or 7 days before starting, which I think is frankly a non-issue. There's ways to get around it. So personally, I'm hopeful. I think this week, especially given the fact that knock on wood, the pandemic seems to be receding pretty rapidly in Italy. But hopefully, we'll have the green light to move forward, and we'll have a target date to shoot for.
What about? I do feel that in Germany and England, in Spain, and I've got to say, Charlie, in Italy, that there has been a love of football expressed from the people in higher places as they've tried to get the game back. I don't feel that from UEFA. UEFA just seem to be keeping on pushing demands. You must finish by this date. You must do that, as if they want to remind everybody that they're in charge. And if we don't get the final played of the Champions League by such and such a date,
I blame Frankie. I blame Frankie Four Fingers. He seems to be the number one man now at UEFA.
I disagree, Neil. I actually think UEFA have done to a T exactly, maybe even too much, what the clubs and the leagues have told them to do.
I thought they bent over backwards.
They bent over backwards. They never said you have to finish the league by this date. It's just nonsense spewed out by certain people peddling garbage in some English newspapers. They never said that. They said, what they said is, we'd like everybody to finish their league, and if you don't finish your league, you have to decide the places by sporting merit. Now, why did they say that if you don't finish your league, your spot might be in jeopardy next year? Because the leagues asked them to. Because the league said, listen, you guys got to give us some leverage here. When we negotiate with our government, we can argue we're going to lose X amount of money. But of course, UEFA aren't going to throw Paris Saint-Germain out of the Champions League next year because they didn't go and because the French league never finished. It was never going to happen. Equally, UEFA bent over backwards. UEFA says, you know what? We'll stick our competition, which is our main money driver, apart from the Euros, which of course got postponed. We're going to do that in August at some point, so it doesn't get in the way of anybody. We'll do it as late as possible. Mm-hmm. So, if anything, I think UEFA has been maybe even, as I said, maybe they bent over backwards a little too much, I think, for certain leagues to go and take their time and play through the summer or whatever, because they said there's going to be, impending economic doom. So, no, I wouldn't, you can find a lot of faults with UEFA. I don't think this is one of them.
All right, let's go. Let's switch gears if we can, and I wanted to talk about the effect on the transfer market. I'm reading Transfer Market and all these other things saying that they've determined that now the transfers are going to go down 28%. God bless them how they figured that one out. But in a serious way, if I'm a billionaire, which I'm not, although the Sun did call me a billionaire, we should point out, right? Now I want to know what the hell's going on. Am I going to buy a team that's is going to have to sell players instead of selling them for $200 million? I'm looking at $30 million. There's consequences to this. And do you think there will be this radical decrease in transfer fees?
So I think it's obviously going to be a buyer's market, right? I think you're going to see clubs that are trying to reduce their wage bills. They're going to try to sell players where they can. But also I think there's going to be clubs who are going to say, you know what? I have this prize asset. Here, let's mention Kai Havertz, for example, since Neil is so interested in bringing him to the Premier League. I don't know that this is the case, but if I'm Bayer Leverkusen and I say, I need to raise money quickly, I think Kai Havertz is an 80 million guy or 100 million guy or whatever. This isn't the market to sell him in because nobody can afford that kind of money. So you hang on to him for another year. So I think what we're going to see is, generally speaking, with a few exceptions, like players that have buyout clauses, perhaps, you're going to see clubs hanging on to their players because they don't want to sell them for less than they're worth.
Does that include Jadon Sancho?
Jadon Sancho is a bit of a funny case because I think they could probably still fetch 100 million for him. And I think Manchester United, who seem to be the exception to everything because they sit on large piles of cash, and if they really wanted him, and they could probably come up with the money. Borussia Dortmund equally might say, well, you know what, Jaden, stick with us another season. We got the beast at center forward. Let's go and make a run at it. And maybe we sell you after England win the Euros next summer, which of course they'll definitely do with Jaden Sancho. Though possibly not with Callum Hudson-Odoi, but that's another story.
Don't rub it in on him. He's going for the big upset when they return to the empty stadium, the Allianz, where Chelsea's going to win 4-0.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, they sure have. They sure have.
In the Allianz with Chelsea, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this, and this is, we talked about, and I think you and I agreed that UEFA has bent over backwards for the teams. What is going to happen to this wonderful product called financial fair play?
I mean, it's in the financial fair play legislation, right? There's a force majeure clause. When something unexpected and catastrophic happens, then, your income is severely hit. You can apply for relief. And I think they're going to go and they're going to apply that.
So everyone across the board will have relief for a year?
I think there'll be some form of that. But I also want to say one thing. And, okay, you guys know how, Mesut Ozil is, public enemy number one. He's seen as greedy, as lazy, as overpaid. I got to say, I heard an interview with his agent, and I agree with this dude 100%. He made the point that right now, every club is crying poverty. You guys need to cut your wages. You need to defer your wages left, right, and center. And he said, we don't know what the numbers are, right? Deloitte comes out with a thing saying, worst case scenario, the Premier League is going to lose 1.3 billion if they don't play again. Tebas, we're going to lose 800 million. We're going to lose $1 billion. Well, let's wait and see how much you're actually going to lose. Let's go and see that, because if you play the games, you will get all or most of your TV money.
Right.
You'll get a hit at the box office next year. But people who talk about impending doom for football, I mean, Charlie, you've run a football club. The single biggest expense for a football club, unless you're MLS and you have the $75 salary cap.
It's not fair. When I was involved, it was $72 a salary cap, so that wasn't fair.
But the biggest expense is labor costs.
Sure.
And that eats up 60, 70, 80% of your revenue, sometimes more in some cases. And the great thing about labor costs is that a third to a quarter of your playing staff, of your costs, those guys go out of contract every year. They can leave, and you could replace them with cheaper players. And all of a sudden,
labor. Absolutely.
All we know for sure is that they have lost 25% of their gate receipts for this season. They may or may not lose some TV revenue. Next season, presumably there'll be no fans, at least for a few months. We don't know for how long.
By the way, can I just say something, interrupt you for a second, just to bring a point? Borussia Dortmund, in the entire year, with the highest attendance in all of Europe, makes a fraction of what Chelsea makes during the course of the year because they don't charge their fans a lot of money. So the funny part is, even the club with the highest attendance in all of Europe isn't reliant on their gate receipts. I mean,
what I'm worried about isn't a Borussia Dortmund. What I'm worried about is a big club like a Roma, who are always fighting the books in order to make it pay.
Right.
And who have had a bad year and have now had this foisted on them. How are they going to survive when, as Gabby said, it is not a seller's market?
Well, I mean, they're going to take a hit. But like I said, what are they going to lose? They're going to lose their gate receipts. If they go back to play,
yeah, but they've sold every year for the last few years in order to make ends meet. And now you're saying they can't do that. Well,
I mean, these are the risks of owning a club, right? They have an owner in Jim Pallotta who, I know some people like him, some people don't, but
we like him here. We love him here, by the way.
All right. So he owns Roma. Roma's an asset. He's going to have to dig into his pockets to go and keep the asset running. And he can't just let players go. And he's going to have to be smart about it. But it's in his interest to keep the asset running, to see them through that period. The clubs I worry about are the clubs that have serious liquidity issues. Those clubs are mostly in the championship, mostly in Serie B, often in the second tiers. And it's no good people saying, oh, look, but they're owned by this rich guy. Well, guess what? There's a difference between asset rich and being cash rich, right? A lot of rich people, their assets have gone down in value, and they're not going to liquidate those assets until they go back up in value. It's as simple as that. So,
I agree with
that.
Let me ask Rocky something, because Rocky's the guy that he was upset when Bury went out of business. As I like to say, my dad worked for Bury Biscuit. It had nothing to do with Bury. I'm not that freaked out about it. Sears and Roebuck went out of business too. But having said all that, I mean, look what's happened in Mexico. They've effectively canceled their second division. Okay. I mean, they've said we're putting on hold for 5 years, which means they're canceling their second division. Okay. They already got to the point where you could buy your way into staying in the top flight if you had enough money, right? And the team coming up didn't have money. So, now, okay, it may be the exception in America. We're allowed, apparently FIFA can decide which rules they follow, which rules they don't. It looks like Mexico now is going to go in that direction. We have Canada with 2 first divisions, right? And my question is, are we looking at sort of, because I agree with you, the championship, the Serie B in particular, I look at I cringe thinking what Serie C is going to do. You know what I mean? At this point, there is no money at all for these lower clubs. And you're talking, countries with going to be 30-40% unemployment in some of these countries. And how are they going to stay in business? Even if they don't, will this lead to a consolidation at the top? Will this force a Super League?
Right. Well, how is it going to alter the whole structure, the overall game? Especially if this wonderful model that Germany has rolled out so beautifully in all of the games, there's no reports of any sort of argy-bargy, any sort of actions out of order, any sort of fan gatherings. It went as smooth as a baby's backside by all accounts, as much as what I've been able to follow. It's been an unmitigated, massive success. Do you think that would happen? You think it's going to happen in England, Italy, and Spain? Because I have serious doubts. And if you're talking about, if this is the moment where these powers that be, especially if this thing starts to, even in the slightest way, starts spiraling out of control, there's so many clubs, like you say, in every country. In England, about 65 of the 72 that are outside of the top clubs in England are in really deep financial problems before this. They were basically living hand to mouth. Now, with this situation, it's exacerbated it so much badly. So where you look at your leaders now, do any of you see that this is an opportunity? I'm not saying for a reset and throwing a baby out with the bathwater. We love our game. We'd love to go back to the normal days. But there's a distinct chance, is there not, Gab, that the game fundamentally from the top may need to have some serious adjustments in its whole architecture?
So I fundamentally agree with you. But I'm also a bit of an optimist here, and some might say that I'm a bit deluded. But I agree with you. There isn't enough regulation, and there isn't enough oversight, and that's something that was true before. I remember I was talking to somebody. You mentioned Bury there, right? And the reason Bury went under was because, well, many reasons, but one is that there was no oversight. There's nobody going and checking, and the guy was borrowing against the club and whatever for his other businesses. And I remember asking somebody at the Football League, not Rick Perry, but somebody close to the person before him, why don't you guys give yourself real rules so that, all these carpetbaggers and guys don't come in? And he says, well, the reason every time we bring this up is clubs vote against it. And the reason they vote against it is because, well, yeah, it's full of crooks, but I want to be able to sell my club and get out. And I don't want the league telling me, no, you can't sell to that guy because he's a crook, right? So that's why they don't want regulation. All of that has to end, and we have a golden opportunity here.
Yep.
FIFA have $2.5 billion, more than $2.5 billion in cash reserves. They've talked about creating some sort of fund to help bail out football, to make sure football survives in some countries. And look, we've been focusing on the big leagues, right? But you could save Ireland for a couple $1 million. You could save Samoa for probably $50. There's a lot of things that you can do. It's not just about the top teams.
And look, this is my question. It's not about the top teams, but let me ask the question. I mean, I think football, soccer, calcio, whatever the hell you want to call it, is going to survive without a problem. The question I have is, will it become at the lower levels softball? And what I mean by that, Gabby, you know that it's fun league. It's everyone goes out every week. They play, they have a good time, but they don't really play seriously until they go to watch the Yankees play a different game completely.
We're not at the stage where that has to happen yet. And what I was meaning before about FIFA's bailout fund, if they can, when the IMF bails people out or the World Bank gets involved, they give you money. Sometimes it's a grant, sometimes it's a low interest loan or no interest loan, but it comes with strings attached. They says, all right, we'll give you money, but you have to give yourself rules. You have to give yourself rules for governance. Whether those rules means that, you can't own a club unless you've got X amount in cash reserves, or you can't own 5 different clubs in 5 different countries, or in some cases, multiple clubs in the same country. We have in the Premier League, we have a club that's owned by a guy who also owns 20% of the world's biggest football agency. Okay. In any kind of corporate governance, that is not normal. We have 2 major clubs, maybe soon a third, that are owned by sovereign wealth funds. I have no problem with a very rich person buying a club on his own. Sovereign wealth fund, that is a country's money, right, with all the political implications that come into it. Now, I got nothing against these people. These people did it because they were allowed to do it. But these rules, these aren't healthy rules. We have no transparency.
Right.
I can't expect the people at the top to, whether it's a championship or the FA or Serie A, to go and police everybody. But if we even had transparency in the books, if we knew how much people paid, if we knew how much was paid in commissions, if we had transparency where clubs weren't based in freaking Cayman Islands or some other like money laundering cesspit around the world, we would have more transparency. And what would happen is if we had transparency at the local level, from Manchester United at the top all the way down to Accrington Stanley, you would have some local nerd blogger who would go and he would read the books and he would say, hey, why did the chairman go and do this? Why did we buy him? Why are we paying this guy that much when he's your cousin's mother's brother? All this crap. And then you would have fans actually exercising their power over the clubs and steering things along the proper way. Instead, we just had this huge murky mess.
Right.
I agree with you absolutely 100%. The problem is not only that the fans don't see what's going on because there's no transparency. The truth is, in these big clubs, Gabby, the people within the club don't know what's going on. And you finish up where nobody knows who signed the player even. Who actually gave the tick to that player that we went out and bought him? And I'll tell you when those questions get asked, when the player turns out to be crap. And suddenly nobody is taking accountability. I believe for a long, long time that there ought to be an actual list of accountability on signings that the fans can see. Because right now, coaches get sacked when players are crap, and it's not recruiting people. But the recruiting people are now the most crucial people in a football club, and nobody knows who they are anymore.
Surely the owner knows,
including
right?
the people in the club.
Surely the owner knows.
They know internally.
No,
they do know internally. They do, Neil. These are guys that are telling you, we don't know. No, they know. They know. They might not want to blame someone or might not want to fire somebody, but they know who ultimately pulled the trigger, who signed the agreement.
They don't. I'm telling you, that is how absolutely.
Well, here, let me ask you guys a question. All you guys a question.
It is.
Why is LAFC worth $500-600 million and Crystal Palace worth $200 million. And one actually can make money and one doesn't make money. And the one who doesn't make money is worth a lot more. Well, I'll tell you, it's simple, and it's something you guys will get right away. It's because Crystal Palace is 3 games away from going down to the championship. 3 bad games away. Now, so what happens in football is all these values of these teams, unless they're the giant teams that are never going to go down, and we know who they are, right? They have a value that is suppressed because any investor is going to say, well, if I get it today and we have a bad run, we're going to go down. And now LAFC can never go down. So they could build on this. So my question to you guys is a simple one. I'm a bank. I'm a fund. I'm a sovereign fund. I don't care what it is. And I have $10 billion. And I go to the Manchester Uniteds of the world and the Chelseas of the world and the Real Madrids of the world. And I say, guys, I'll give you your league.
Yeah, but what if you really want to invest?
I'm just asking. I'm asking
if you really want
them. If you're them, what do you? At this point, we know we've talked about Italy. Juventus is going to win, right?
Charlie, I'll tell you what you do. If you're a bank, you go to a team like Leeds or a team like Sunderland, who should be up there in the Premier League. You put some money into them, and you come out with the biggest damn profit you possibly can.
That's what every owner in the championship has thought, or half the owners has thought. And they've all gone and thrown good money after bad.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say LAFC is also worth a lot of money because every couple of years, MLS just adds more team and they get a check
look.
My
point is that there is inherent instability in the relegation and promotion.
What I would throw to you, though, about this, right, the problem, and it is one of the issues of the Super League, is right now the values of the clubs have been distorted by accidents of geography, by the success of the Premier League, right? If you were, when we look at the closed
accidents, look at Manchester United.
Well,
I mean, there's a club that had a horrible, horrible tragedy in the Munich air disaster, and one of the reasons they're a household name. They grew out of the Phoenix, if you will.
Oh, no. But I'm saying even beyond that, right?
Sure.
If you look at the closed leagues that are successful, like the NFL or the NBA, they care about catchment area and geography, right?
Sure.
So within an hour's drive, right, in the northwest of England, you have Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United, right? 3 of the top 6, top 8 clubs in the world by revenue, maybe higher. Now, if I'm the guy bankrolling your Super League, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want this. I want to have a team in Amsterdam.
I want to have a team in
Milan.
I want to have a team in Milan. I want to have a team in 2 teams in London. I'm with you. This is my point.
That, I think, is one of the things that, like, I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that Ray is not a fan of the Super League. I don't think we're ready for a Super League. I don't think it needs to happen. And that is one of the things.
Super League's about business. It's not about sporting merit.
No, right. You're absolutely right. And my point that everyone, I keep saying this. Look, I work for an NFL owner. Great man, Stephen Ross. Great man. He wants a win badly. But I think, I've always said this, they get mad at me when I say this, by the way. So hopefully they won't hear this. But like I always say at the end of the day, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, business is more important than winning. And what I mean by that is that they say we need to create a league that is stable for all of us financially. And I've heard Mr. Ross say, it's the most communist league in the world. And the funny part is they're most capitalist people on the planet, right? These 32 guys that sit around and decide the fate of the NFL and the players and everything, okay? Now, they have a unique situation. I know there's only, football in America, American football in America and all that stuff. I get it. But it is a business, Neil. I'm saying I agree with you 100%. It's a business. So to your point, Gabby's point, sovereign nations own these wealth funds, own teams. What the hell do they care about the community where they are?
That's where I came in and said, do these owners care about the actual league? They care about getting their money out of it. And I think it is a dangerous situation for every individual league if they have owners from outside their country who don't give a fig in the end about anything except getting their money out.
Yeah, but Gabby made it clear. Their money is the driver. So their success is they're only successful if they make money with that team on the field in that city. That's it.
Yeah. Can I move this back to the pitch? Because I think it's important that we do go back to the football. And
I want to hear Gabby answer the question first, but go ahead if you need to.
All right, no, go on, Gabby.
No, I'm with you, Charlie. You have to have an economic. I agree. They have skin in the game, right? So they care about the league. I disagree with Neil about the foreign owners. I think Serie A has had some of the worst owners in history, and they've all been Italian.
Also, last time I looked,
Mike Ashley's not a Geordie, but he's still English. I think a lot of Newcastle fans would be happy to see, or are happy to see the back of him if that goes through. So I think it's a complex situation, but there's an equilibrium to be reached. There's an equilibrium to be reached where you control costs in a fair way. You have transparency. You don't have people mooching money or simply, or as we see in some leagues. And I think there, you talked about the effects of the pandemic on the transfer market. Look at all these talks about player swapping between Barcelona and Juventus, right? Two teams that have a liquidity issue, right, in the short term. And it's De Sciglio and Pjanic and Semedo. And no, you take Archer and I'll take Vidal. There's no sporting logic behind any of this. About all the famous swaps in Serie A between players and the magic of amortization. If I swap Ray for Neil, hey, look, all of a sudden, I can bank 20 million for Ray, and then I spread the cost of Neil out over 5 years, and look, I've made 60 million out of thin air. Isn't that brilliant?
Yay!
All this crap that goes on that nobody freaking talks about. These are the issues that we need to address. The system's messed up, but it's not messed up beyond repair. I think there's a few fixes that need to be made, and we need to have rules, and we need to have transparency. When I say rules, I don't just need rules because, I want some sort of super cop going around and a couple like nerd auditors going and breaking balls at a club or the club financial control body. I want transparency so that the fans who care about the club, who want the club to survive, are the first ones to go and hold their owners and their directors of football and their managers or whatever to account. They hold them to account for results. They should hold them to account for the way that they run their club. Because you know what? When those owners are long gone, those fans will still be there.
Here. As I said, I'd just like to take it back to the pitch. The games in Germany, apart from Union Berlin trying to kick several Bayern Munich players off the pitch, I thought they were all a little bit lacking in the physical combat that we're used to. And I do just wonder whether the crowd incites some kind of over the top conduct, whether it be simulation, diving, or feigning injury, or whether it be just aggressive violence. Do you think that people seem to be on best behaviour because it was the first game back, or do you think it was because there were no crowds?
I think it had a big part of to do that the crowd wasn't there. The players are, they're emotional machines, and when you're pitched up to such a concert pitch, even when you've got a smaller crowd, there's something that seeps into you as a player. And without that lack of embarrassment, let's call it, that lack of reaction on a human level, that you're mixing in with your people, the opponent's fans, showing that sort of outward going emotion, and there's nobody there to bounce it back for, it's got to have an effect. It has to. I mean, there's an example there at the weekend on the goal, on the opening goal, where I thought McKennie should have got there. I did. I thought McKennie should have got there. And the lane was open for who was it again? Across the ball, Hazard. Right? It was Hazard, and it was. And that's no real big knock to McKennie, but without that voluminous expectation that goes through a player, you got to get there. When that's not there, it definitely loses a bit in every way. Now, the counterpoint to that is, well, it didn't affect Haaland. It didn't affect Haaland. It didn't affect Guerrero when he scored his beautiful goal. They didn't need anything. But I still feel, Neil, that without that element, that the game loses something. Whether or not you can call it a pure dimension or just some sort of, I haven't got the word to Gabby, the journalist will get this one, but for me, it irrevocably loses something of its soul as much as anything.
Passion.
It's that sort of visceral reaction, I think, to people around you. It's the whole angry mob effect. Right. I get where you're coming from. I just feel that we can better assess this when we have a bigger sample size. You know, it's been one game, so many other factors. You know, we see it first week of the season, you know, under normal circumstances, people come back with fans, you know, they're usually more tentative and whatever. I hope you're wrong. I hope they can rediscover this.
Me too, Gab. Me too. But let me ask you this then. What happens if, as you say, the bigger sample size will tell a lot, not just through Germany, who've done an admirable job, and I'm full of admiration for the players, the referees, everybody involved, for all that it's not a knocking of this situation. It's trying to deal with a different, the new game, the new normal, this bizarro world that I call it. But what happens, Gab, when this novelty wears off of playing in these games, when Spain play every game, every day, without the crowds, and you're seeing it, do you really think that people are still going to be as enchanted as what we were in those first early games? Because I think this could wear off in a bad way.
No, but I'll bring it back to one of my favorite subjects, and I suspect Charlie's too, which is food. You know, when you've not eaten for, you know, when you're hungry and you've not eaten all day, you know,
well said.
You'll go and eat whatever you find in the fridge. You'll go to, you know, the nasty corner shop, and you know, after a while, when you got a full menu, you're gonna pick and choose what you like. So you know, are people necessarily gonna want to watch Valladolid against Espanyol at 6:00 on a Tuesday? Maybe not. Maybe they'll go and take their dog for a walk. But they'll have that option, and I think people will settle in. Now, people like me will likely be watching everything because, you know, I think Tebas made the point that it's going to feel like I think it was Valdano says it's going to feel like a World Cup, you know, when you got 3 games every day in La Liga. Well, you have the 3 games there. Hopefully you'll have a bunch of games in the Premier League, maybe Serie A too, and the Bundesliga on weekends. So, you know, it's going to be a big buffet, and we're going to go back to doing, those of us who watch it for the game will go back to doing what we did before on weekends, which is trying to watch everything, right? It's the casual guys who drop in that maybe they'll be put off.
Let me just say this. I've been married to my wife for 26 years, and every once in a while we'll have a meal, and she'll see my face, and she'll see that I'm disappointed, and she'll say to me, "It's just one meal." And I say to her, "No, it's not just one meal. Okay. It's food. Food needs to nourish your soul, your body, everything. And every meal is important to me. So hopefully we'll find every game interesting. Let's see what happens.
And that is why you never take the field with a crap goalkeeper.
Gabby Marcotti. Wow. I mean, you know, here's the problem with you, Gab. I could sit here and talk to you for 2 days. This is
we
not
have
fair.
done too in the past, so
Yes, we've done that. That's true.
But that's in a restaurant.
Yeah, over a dinner with Neil where they kick us out at 4 a.m. Now I know I'm eating Indian Italian cuisine soon in Milan. So I can't thank you enough, Gab. Thanks, Neil and Ray. You guys are amazing. Amazing stuff.
It's my pleasure. It's been a privilege to be on with you guys, and good luck with the podcast.